Hey, St. Mary grade 8s, Mr. McHenry back for another math lesson. We're going to be starting a new unit. This unit is going to focus on square roots and Pythagorean theorem. So today we are going to start off by learning about square numbers and square roots. So square numbers, when you multiply a number by itself, you square the number, and a square number or perfect square is produced. So for example, 4 times 4 is equal to 4 squared, which is equal to 16. 16 is a square number or a perfect square. 9 is a square number or a perfect square because 3 multiplied by itself produces 9. 3 times 3 equals 3 squared, which is equal to 9. 10 is not a square number or a perfect square because no number multiplied by itself produces 10. Now we're going to talk about square roots. So finding a square root is the inverse or opposite of squaring. The square root symbol equals the symbol that I've drawn there, and you write the number you are finding the square root of underneath the square root symbol. Now, the square root symbol is on most calculators, and just as an example, my calculator here, you can see the square root symbol of that. So we're going to be finding the square root of 9. So if I put 9 and take the square root of that, I get 3. And we'll talk about why that is the case in a second, but I just wanted to show you what the square root button looks like on your calculator, so you can be taking the square root of numbers using your calculator. So when you find the square root of a given number, you are finding what number, when multiplied by itself, produces the given number you are finding the square root of. So if we are going to find the square root of 9, okay, so that symbol here, when you see that you're saying to yourself, I'm finding the square root of 9. And I'm thinking, what number, when multiplied by itself, produces 9? Well, 3 times 3, which is equal to 3 squared, equals 9. Therefore, the square root of 9 is equal to 3. Sometimes the numbers we find the square root of are square numbers or perfect squares, and the square root of these numbers will not have a decimal. 16 and 36 are square numbers or perfect squares. The square root of 16 is equal to 4, and the square root of 36 is equal to 6. Sometimes the numbers we find the square root of are not square numbers or perfect squares, and the square root of these numbers will have a decimal. So we round the decimal as asked. For example, we're going to round to 1 decimal place. 20 and 32 are not square numbers or perfect squares. So when I take the square root of 20, I get 4.472. I'm rounding to 1 decimal place, so that is the square root of 20 is approximately 4.5. Find the square root of 32 equals 5.655 continued. I want to round to 1 decimal place. That the square root of 32 is approximately 5.7. We can use square numbers and square roots to find the area, which equals A, and the side length, which equals L, of a square. The area of a square equals side length times side length, or side length squared. Therefore, A is equal to L squared, or the area is equal to side length squared. And L is equal to the square root of A, or side length is equal to the square root of the area. So an example, a square has side length of 12 centimeters. What is the area of the square? So I want to find the area. So area is equal to L squared. I'm going to substitute in 12 is equal to L, so L 12 squared, which is equal to 12 times 12. So the area is equal to 144 centimeters, and because we're squaring, it's squared. Second example, a square has area of 60 centimeters squared. What is the side length of the square and round to 1 decimal place? Well, from above, I know that side length L is equal to the square root of the area of the square. So I'm going to take the square root of 60. The square root of 60 is equal to 7.745. I've been asked to round to 1 decimal place. So the answer is going to be the side length is equal to 7.7 centimeters approximately. Okay, short lesson for today. Please check on D2L for those practice questions so that you can feel confident knowing about square numbers and square roots.